We are recording a little bit early this week, Shannon, because I'm heading out to Los Angeles for a conference called Podcast Movement. Actually, this one's called Podcast Movement Evolutions.
Oh, okay.
And they do, it's great to be able to get the podcast industry together.
Is it just anybody who has a podcast, or people on another level, like advertising agencies, or both? What is it?
All of the above.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's for the podcast industry, whether you're thinking of starting a podcast, whether you've been doing one for 20 years, or whether you've never done a podcast and don't plan to, but you have other business interests in the podcast industry, right? Like you said, advertisers and people that manage advertising and all of it, right?
Yeah.
It gets the industry together. And that is super valuable.
Is it the biggest one out there, or are there other ones too?
Well, let me get there. That's a great question.
All right.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
And no. And also, I don't know. But I've always enjoyed going to podcast conferences. Like the first one was, I think, 2006. Like it was early. Yeah. It was called, crap, I don't even remember what it was called. I think it was called Podcast Expo or the New Media Expo or something. And that happened in Ontario, California, which is like, there's nothing there, which was great because everybody that was there was like a brand new podcaster because we were all new. Yeah, we was like going to camp. Nice. And then that evolved and everything. And then, I don't know, 8-10 years ago, maybe, these folks started Podcast Movement. And they've had them for every year other than COVID years, in various locations. They move them around. And it's great. However, I have one problem with it. And the problem that I have is that they started doing it once a year. Right? Like most conferences are.
Right, yeah.
And it'd be a big one. It would be for everybody, creators and industry folks and all that. And then they added a second one every year that they called Evolutions. And that was, at least from my perspective, geared towards just the industry side. So not so much for creators, but for, like, you said ad agencies and
facilitators.
the facilitators, the business. And when that started, it was fantastic because it was like, all right, this is great. We can get, without there being like the distraction of creator sessions and all that
more
stuff.
Specialized.
It's like, more specialized, more focused. Cool. It would happen at a smaller venue. It was all kind of in like a little hotel in Los Angeles where everybody could just sort of be together. And there was, if the main one had, I don't know, somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 attendees, this one maybe had like 800 or something.
Okay.
And it was easy to just go and you could like be super efficient about it. And it was great. And then things started to get cloudy because this is my assumption that the organizers said, well, if we can have 2 conferences each year that had 3,000 people at them, wouldn't that be great? Like they're making money. Like I get it.
Of course.
And so it got unclear which one, and it's still unclear which conference is the one that we as the industry, and of course I sit in both of these camps, right? I'm obviously a podcaster, here I am, but I also run one of, if not the oldest podcast representation firm, right? Like we've been running Backbeat Media. Backbeat Media has been selling ads on podcasts for other people's shows, including our shows, but for 20 years, almost 20 years.
That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but we've been doing that for a long time. So there's that side of it too.
Yep.
And that's the part of the industry that's confused. And it's not just me. There's lots of us that like to be able to get together once a year. We don't need to see each other every 3 months or even every 6 months. Like we're emailing each other constantly, but it's nice to, as I say, remind one another that we are humans once a year, right? Because you're doing, it's very transactional. I'll get an email from someone. They'll be like, hey, Dave, we have a proposal for Shopify. And it's like, great. And we, pounce on it and our team will go and vet it against all of our shows and find out who's interested. And then we put a proposal together and we deliver that back. They crunch it through. They talk to Shopify about it. They say, all right, great. Of the shows you submitted, Shopify selected, these 6 shows. Yep. Here's the dates we want. Give us dates. And it's this very like harried sort of transactional thing, which is what business is. Like, that's totally fine. It's easy to lose sight of the person's
people. So at the show, you get to connect with those people, have those,
we're just hanging out, having drinks, like whatever, it's nice to, again, remind each other that we're humans.
Yes.
But once a year is enough. So, but right now, because this show happens twice a year and because the organizers have either intentionally created this blurred perception of what these are or unintentionally it's sort of evolved, no one knows. And so everybody thinks they need to go to 2 shows a year.
Is one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast or anything?
Well, no. This one that happens in the spring, February, March-ish, the one called Evolutions, has traditionally happened in Los Angeles. It is happening there again. They did 1-year detour in Las Vegas, which was the wrong place for it. Yeah. But, so we're back in L.A., which is fine. But the other one moves around, and I actually like how they move the other one around. They find a hotel where it can be all in one, a conference center, plenty of restaurants, hotel, like a resort.
Yeah.
And you'll go to resorts like, going to a resort in Dallas in August is not the best time to be in Dallas, but you spend all your time indoors.
Yes.
It's fine. It doesn't matter, right? And so everybody hangs out, and I think the industry is trying to move to only going to the summer one and not caring about this one that happens in LA every year.
Got it.
We'll see how it evolves.
That's great. That's interesting. We've done shows about the importance of trade shows and conferences and how to get the most out of them. So if you go to businessbrain.show, you can look for those.